You won't believe these medieval court sentences today. I'll take you through the most bizarre and unbelievable court sentences from medieval times. These cases are so strange you won't believe they actually happened. Medieval justice system was completely different from today. Let's explore some shocking examples. Animals on trial. First case is about animal trials. Yes, you heard right. Medieval courts actually put animals on trial. In 1386 in Falaise, France, a pig was officially tried because it harmed a baby. The pig was dressed in human clothes and brought to the courtroom. What was the sentence? The pig was sentenced to hanging. There was even a public execution. There are more cases. In 1474, in Switzerland, a rooster was tried because it allegedly laid an egg. Medieval belief was that this was devil's work. The rooster was sentenced to be burned at the stake. Imagine, they even appointed lawyers for animals. The trial of dead people. Medieval times even put dead people on trial. Pope Formosus's famous Cadaver Synod happened in 897 AD. Dead Pope Formosus' body was dug up and seated in a chair for trial. The body was dressed in expensive papal robes, and questions were asked. Obviously, a dead person can't answer, so a deacon was appointed as spokesperson. Result? Formosus was declared guilty. His papacy was invalidated, and the body was thrown into the river. This case was political revenge, but was considered legally valid according to medieval law. Bizarre theft punishments. Medieval theft cases had punishments that crossed all limits of creativity. In England, one case sentenced a thief to walk in the market square, carrying a stone equal to the weight of stolen goods. Another interesting case. A horse thief was sentenced to pull a cart instead of a horse for one whole day. In Wales, a cheese thief was sentenced to dip his hand in melted cheese. If the hand burned, he was guilty. If not, innocent. This was the trial by ordeal system. God would decide innocent or guilty through physical tests. Strange marriage sentences. Medieval courts used marriage as punishment. In Spain, there was a case where a man was sentenced to compulsory marriage with a woman because he made false promises. But the twist was the woman had the right to refuse marriage. If she refused, the man had to join a monastery. Another case in Italy, due to gambling debt, a man was sentenced to marry the creditor's daughter as payment. In medieval times, women were considered property, so these sentences were possible. Ridiculous blasphemy punishments. Blasphemy cases had no limit to creativity. In France, a man used curse words, so he was sentenced to share lunch with a pig in the town square. In England, there was a case where a man was sentenced to hold a candle in church and repeat, "I am a fool," 100 times. Another case, a woman was sentenced to ride a donkey around town wearing an "I am a gossip" sign. Debt payment sentences. Medieval debt cases used creative payment methods. This was an actual sentence in Germany. A debtor had to go to the creditor's house every morning and make rooster sounds until the debt was cleared. Another weird case in Italy. A debtor was sentenced to sit on a stone in the marketplace with bare buttocks while shouting, "I declare bankruptcy." In France, there was a case where a debtor had to send his wife to work as a maid at the creditor's house for 6 months as debt payment. Witchcraft trial sentences. Witchcraft cases had the most bizarre sentences. In water trials, suspected witches were thrown into rivers. If they floated, they were witches guilty. If they drowned, they were innocent. There were also needle tests, which hunters would poke needles all over the body, looking for devil's marks. In one case, a woman was sentenced to publicly confess that she spoiled her neighbor's cow with magic. Actually, these cases were mostly property disputes or personal vendettas settled in the name of witchcraft. Food crime punishments. Medieval food-related crimes had hilarious punishments. In England, pillory punishment was famous for dishonest traders. Rotten fruits and vegetables were thrown at the guilty person. An alewife beer seller was sentenced to publicly dip her face in watered-down beer. In Germany, a butcher was sentenced to eat spoiled meat in public to teach him a lesson. Conclusion: these medieval court sentences show us how much the justice system has evolved. Medieval times had justice concepts based on revenge and public humiliation. Today's rehabilitation-focused approach is completely different. These weird sentences were actually methods of social control. The objective was to create deterrence through public humiliation. Medieval judges used creativity in punishments because standardized legal codes didn't exist. Each case had the judge's personal interpretation. Modern legal systems have fundamental concepts of due process, proportional punishment, and human dignity. These stories seem funny, but they're actually reflections of how much society has progressed in matters of justice and human rights. History teaches us that law and order constantly evolve with social values.